Welcome to another episode of Leverage Addicts. And today we have a interesting story. We have Joel Dorset on, and he's got a interesting path that he took because the recent deal that he did basically has 10% equity gain on registered valuation. It's got over 11% yield, and he secured a social housing contract where it's interest deductible and it's on a full section. So there's a lot going for this deal here that Joel have just kind of project managed and finished to get to where he is now, right? Like he has sort of gone through like different things of understanding about properties and sort of gone on his little journey. So I thought that's going to be interesting if we can dive into that a little bit. Maybe we can kick off with Joel. Like you can tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do as a profession? Like what do you do in your day job? And then sort of how you got into properties.
Yeah, so I was a sprinkler fitter for quite a few years, and that's how I ended up meeting JP over at a place called Ultrafire. So then I ended up teaming up with JP and then decided that I was going to start saving for my first home. And then I started looking at
How did you know JP though?
So he worked at Ultrafire.
Oh, yeah. So
colleagues. Yeah. He ended up getting me over there. He needed a bit of a hand with sprinklers because he's an alarm technician. That's his background.
Yes.
So we started working together there. And then I started looking at properties. And then one day I just mentioned to JP, like looking at this house, I'm going to this auction. Then he sort of slowly started to say how interested he was with properties. I had no idea he was as big as he was into it.
I'm interested to know how he got how did you sort of figure out this guy's like really into properties? What do you say to make you think that?
I don't really know. I would think it's just the more conversations I had with him, I started to slowly pick it up. And then once he took me around to a few of the flips he was doing, I sort of realized like how big the operation was just of going to a site, and then there was probably 10 tradies running through a place. It was all sort of coming together. So then that's when I was like, oh yeah, well, should probably listen to this guy. And then I think we managed to finally purchase our first property like 2 days after the very first lockdown.
Yeah.
And
that was the best time.
Yeah, it was. It was really good. We ended up purchasing a good property in Pakuranga, and JP mentioned to me that you had put together a course, an online course, which is the Property Formula Workshop. And then once we moved in, I think I binged that in about a week. And then
tell us about the first property. Like, what was it that you bought? Like, and how did you sort of arrive at that decision to go, yep, this is the one I'm going to buy?
Well, the first thing, it was in a pretty bad state. The owners had been through a divorce.
So check box number 1 and 2. You got like number 1.
Yeah, there was a lot of
number 2.
Not a big do up. It just needed a fair bit of work. Yeah. And they had tenants in there that had sort of not destroyed the place, but I think it was mismanaged, or the owners they weren't too bothered about it. Yeah, it had a CV of 950. After the lockdown, they were quite worried, and then the agent sort of told us low 800s. At that time, even going up to the lockdown of COVID, I remember like the day before COVID, we ended up losing an auction on that day, and we were going 100,000 above what we wanted to go. It was just out of control. So we'd lost a lot. So when it came up to this and she sort of said low 800s, I was like, at that time, below $1 million was just a win. Yeah, we just started negotiating.
A freehold title or like a cross lease?
Yeah, it was a freehold, I think 670 square meters.
Wow, that's unheard of, eh? Like right now you're just buying a unit with that price.
Yeah, so that was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom place. And we ended up getting that for 870 or 865. One of them, 865 or 870. And then, we renovated that. We well overcapitalized because we were supposed to stay there. We didn't plan on moving, but I think we probably ended up maybe spending 160K.
Wow.
Roughly on renovating that place.
That does sound a little bit capitalized.
Yeah, probably like 50K just on a kitchen and appliances. So, but then we ended up selling that for 1.43 or 1.44.
So definitely like a little bit of right timing had to do with it because
it was all right timing.
Yeah, I think so it was all right bit of that. But I think your property, you didn't go for like the nicest one. You really had like a property that someone's just willing to let it go at a lower price because of the situation. But you got a freehold section that made a huge difference if you bought that prior to lockdown as well. So that really set you up for the next purchase, because you've got all the equity built up. So why did you sell it though? Why did you decide to sell that?
So that would have been Well, it's because the honest truth is because we were locked in Auckland for 4 months. My partner and I are from up north. So we'd leave Auckland every second weekend to get up north, fish, go to the beaches, whatever. So once we got out of lockdown, we basically packed the car on the 15th of December and just got out of Auckland for 3 months. Noticed how bad the market was and which way it was going. So we listed the property, I think it was December 21. So we sort of just missed the top. And that actually took us 8 months to sell it.
Wow.
So it finally sold in, maybe 9 months. And we settled it in September.
So it's still not bad. You sold in I would say that was the worst market.
Yeah.
Like sort of end of 2022, but you still sold for 1.4 because, you had good fundamentals in that property.
Yeah. And it was quite the place looked really nice. Like it wasn't was done quite well. But yeah, the decision was to move out of that because capital gains weren't really going to go anywhere for what we believe like another 2 years.
Yeah.
So we just thought, let's just try and find a cash flow property up north and maybe we'll just go and move up there for a while.
Yeah, that's good.
And then this deal popped up. Yeah, when I saw it, and then I just did some quick numbers. I think it was just off their rental assessment. It was massive. Yeah.
Because there's a bit of like, I guess, realization because you went from like a first home buyer, like you already took a lot of risk buying like the one that's like a do-up, like probably JP influenced you a lot because he could show you exactly what he could take a old property and then what it looks like renovated because he had a lot of flips going on in 2020 from memory. So you took a big leap there, but then you took a second big leap. Like you literally sold, like a first home buyer, they're just like, I just want to buy in the big city, right? Like I don't want to buy in like the smaller region. So what made the decision to be like, okay, I'm going to go north and buy cash flow property? That's like unheard of, right?
I don't really get too attached to things. Like I'm a tradie. I don't really care too much about, I don't know what probably most people would. It's just all the numbers, especially just getting the spreadsheet from doing that course made things quite clear. A part of this decision, I wasn't too bothered about capital gains. It was more just as long as the place cash flowed, I was happy with that because that would sort of make up for dead money we would probably get from Auckland over the next 2 years. Whether that's still true or not, I feel like there's probably still another year left in that.
Yeah, true.
Or in that original assessment from a year or so ago. So yeah, I mean, the numbers were just really good and I believed it would rent for more if we did renovate the place. I knew what it was probably going to take to renovate it to achieve the level that they had advertised. And then,
so let's jump into some of the pictures of this property. So let me share my screen here, and maybe you guys can you can walk us through in terms of like.
I can
the conclusion on
share that listing if you like.
Is this the listing?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, when you sold this property, like what did you see?
I just saw
cash flow, potential?
To be honest. I saw cash flow and the potential to revalue it higher because I couldn't really understand how something that cash flowed that much would be valued so low.
Yeah.
So basically, from their rental assessment or appraisal, it was 380 to 420 per unit once you got them up to healthy home standards. So just sort of basing it off $1,600 a week, I sort of knew value would be sort of up around 900K maybe, or around there at least.
Yeah. So you got four times 2 bedroom, and the first thing you sort of realize is like just basic maths, cash flow on like the purchase price. You're looking at a cash flow deal, but at this point you're pretty much holding like something like $500,000. 600K from selling the initial place.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, about that. Yeah. So initially we thought we had sold our place because it was conditional under a builder's report. And then that sort of fell over 2 days before the auction. So I had to watch the auction. I think the bidding started at 500. It got vendor bidded up to 530 and then it just got passed in. And I was sort of losing my shit watching it, thinking, fuck, how does no one want to buy it?
Well, how come you're not ready to buy it? Like
I couldn't.
Oh, is it because you haven't sold your place yet?
Yeah, we hadn't sold our place.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, once it got passed in, I just rang the agent and said, hey, look, we can make a conditional offer on our place selling.
Wow. Okay.
So then it wasn't a multi-offer sort of stage. I sort of just did the numbers, and with our position, like how our offer was going to look, I was like, oh, I'll just try and max it out what I'm willing to go up to, try and make it look more.
Okay, so that's interesting. You haven't sold your place, but you're real keen on this. So there's a bit of the big man's helping here, just making things smooth for you.
You mean JV?
No, the big man is the guy above. That's what I'm saying.
Wow, just hit and hope sometimes.
Yeah. No, but that's good. Okay, so you actually got a chance to make an offer on this. But that's not all of the truth, because there was a bit of struggle with this one, right? Maybe you can tell us a bit of the challenges with renovating this place, because, there was a bit of like hiccup, when you started it.
Yes. Do you mean with tradies?
Yeah, tradies. So you finally secured a place. You sold your property, you secured a place.
Yeah. So we probably just let the place sit for a month or so because we were also moving up north.
Yeah.
So once we sort of got that out of the way, we started to try and formulate a plan of what the end goal was going to be and how budget it. And then we started to first engage builders to come through, sort of demo bits and pieces, rip out all the kitchens, bathrooms, like bits of jib here and there, in the odd little wall. So then we started with that, and then I feel like their trading hours are quite a bit different. And being a tradie myself, it's sun up to sundown, but it's more of a 9 till 2 or a 9 till 3 setup sometimes.
Oh, geez.
And even then, it's probably not even that productive throughout that time. So we did have a few issues just with how long certain things were taking.
Yes.
One of them mainly were the kitchens. I think they nearly took 40 hours to put one of them in. And that was probably the final straw where I had to tell them to gap it, because I've never put a kitchen in and I managed to do one in 16 hours kind of thing. So So
this is the work hours of the far north, huh? That's what you learned.
Yeah. So, and then a part of that time as well, there were a lot of supply shortages, labor shortages. So that was very difficult. Everything else was the lead time for basically anything you wanted was at a minimum 6 weeks, probably. Yeah, so 6 to 12 weeks. So we were quite smart. We had our kitchens ordered pretty much straight away. And then all of our bathroom stuff might have been 2 weeks after that. So we started to procure everything that we needed.
That's good. So I think the upside you had was that, you had mostly cash in the deal, because, otherwise it's like, hey, you're paying a mortgage. It would have been a little bit of a panic. So you kind of had that on your side, because you put in mostly cash. It's like, okay, I can take my time to figure things out.
Yeah, exactly. That was the whole thought process behind it. So we purchased it just outright. So we didn't have that sort of hanging over us. Kind of a bad thing, because you kind of can sit back a little bit more than you normally would. But with everything we had going on with moving up and trying to get everything set up, it was worth it.
So that's good. I have a similar lesson, right? When I did the Martin renovations, I didn't look for local contractors. I looked for a project manager that project managed a lot of things around Wellington, and someone already used them for a long time. And they had their contractors that they would bring up, they'll drive up 40 minutes, I'd rather pay them the extra. I just keep telling them I'll pay you extra, man. You just make sure you look after the project. And he's yeah, I got it. But, he drove his contractors up to do the jobs, and that's definitely something really important, I guess. It's if you can find somebody that has a track record. So, okay, I'm going to walk through the numbers on behalf of Joel, because he's a little bit frozen there. So he ended up buying this place for 625, 100K above the reserve. Sorry, not the reserve, the passed-in price at the auction, which, no one's going to be able to compete with him. And then he ended up spending quite a bit on the renovations, 260,000, because he didn't cut any corners at all, So you guys are going to be able to see sort of what that looks like. And if we have a look, what happens is total up to 893,000. Now keep in mind, because his he didn't have as much delays he had delays, but he didn't have as much interest to pay. Because if he had interest to pay on this, obviously that would look a little bit different on the costing. It'll cost him another, you'll have to budget another 20 grand almost for interest. So there was a blessing in his situation. And so 900,000, the registered valuation came back at around 970. So he pretty much have a close to 10% uplift. And I'm pretty confident that, if the market was a bit better, like if they did a cap rate on this particular deal, like the valuation would be a lot higher. So this is a more conservative figure here. And then cash flow wise, he ended up getting 1,900, which is amazing. He secured a social housing contract. This is like the ceremony that they had in the property. I thought was super cool. He shared it in the group, and you guys might have seen this video. Yeah, so like this is all top quality stuff, right? Like he spent 260K, but this place is now like in really good condition. And social housing was so happy to get this. He actually had another video that's the ceremony. Let me see if I can find it. So here we go. He had like the social housing come in, which is super cool. And now like he's built a name, right? In the local, like to the local who are giving them the social housing contract. Like Joel's like a superstar, right? They want to do business with this guy because he did such a good job. He didn't cut corners on the renovation. He spent, like, he doesn't have to spend 260 on this renovations, but he did. And for him, because this property is basically freehold, because he's got close to freehold. He only had like a small mortgage on it. So he got a ton of equity where he could pick up another unit, do another social housing contract, and lease it out again. And that's going to be massive for him because that's going to be an ongoing business for him. So looking at the cash flow, because he didn't need as much mortgage. So if we max it out at 65%, he actually only have to invest around 259,000 of his cash in this deal. Okay. And essentially he's got 13% cash on cash return. And what this is if you guys remember, is like the amount of cash that you put in the deal, what sort of cash flow return you're immediately getting, accounting for all your interest rates, which is 7.19, which is what Joel have put down here, and all your vacancy rate, which you don't get any on a social housing contract. He's making 23,000 on his 259,000 that he put in, and he basically get to recycle 633,000, right? So after he finished the deal, he leaves 259 in the deal, and he recycles out 633, which allows him to pretty much have two deposits for two more deals, which is super awesome. Right now he can choose to either buy a own occupy with this cash, or like buy one own occupy and then maybe another investment property that has cash flow. So overall, very good results. If you look at the numbers, it's just phenomenal. I just sort of stole your thunder here, Joel. You were sort of like about to say something really important and you just froze, but just took everyone through the numbers. Maybe you guys, you've got a few photos here. I'm sure these ones are the one that you're quite proud of. Maybe you can share a little bit about these.
Yeah, so that's sort of the kitchen and laundry that we put together. So we always knew we were going to put them towards social housing. Our thought process that we would use engineered stone bench tops over melamine, just probably more around water and heat. That'd probably be a bit more robust for that. So we did that, and everything, I feel like everything's just soft close now anyway. So that's sort of a given. And then we just made sure the sinks were big enough to put like an oven tray in. There was a dishwasher there. There's not enough room for a dryer unless they wanted to hang it on the wall above the laundry. But all of that sort of works there. The kitchen's big enough. And then we tried to make the breakfast bar double as a dining table, just to make the lounge just solely the lounge instead of having to have a dining table and couch set up in there.
Yeah. Looks amazing, eh?
Yeah. And then we sort of made sure each unit was private just by fully fencing the property and putting sort of inter-tenancy fence walls between each one. So yeah, it was, and then we redid all the flooring. We made sure all that was lino through all sort of the kitchen, lounge, hallway, and then just carpet in the bedrooms, lino in the bathroom, just to try and make it hard wearing. So no, even carpet doesn't have a very long lifespan. And around when we were renovating it, I sort of wanted to do it so it was minimal maintenance over the 10-year period.
Yeah.
So part of that, we even did every single hot water cylinder in each unit. So it should be, I'm hoping, sort of set and forget to a degree. There might be little things here and there. We re-roofed the whole place, new spouting, new downpipes.
Wow.
So the whole shell of the place is good. Yeah,
Is that
repainted
like
the
HRV? What's that? What is that? Is that no,
that's the range hood.
Wow.
Yeah, so like to make the kitchen work, that's sort of the only place we could put the stove, because we wanted to have like above bench cabinets as well. We just wanted as much storage as possible.
Yeah.
In the kitchen, because I sort of know how much or how many things go into a kitchen, and when you can declutter a place, people sort of take a little bit more pride in the place. So you normally have those range hoods when you put like your cooktop on an island. So that's what that is. And that was sort of the way to make that kitchen work, because where there are windows, it sort of makes it quite hard to put a canopy range hood. So this unit 1 was already accessible. There was a man in a wheelchair. So there are ramps to the front door and the back door, and also the bedroom, the doorways are wider. So they're 800 wide. And then there was already a level entrance shower in the bathroom. So we thought we'd just keep it accessible for an elderly tenant or maybe a disabled tenant. So that was sort of the only unit. We just decided to keep it like that, which was quite easy.
I want to touch on your relationship with the social housing provider as well, because I said it before you jumped on. I said, like, you're a superstar to them. Like, they would love you for what you have done. Because
I'm quite new to it, I sort of wanted to make a really good product, and they appreciated that quite a lot, because the majority of the social housing stock is, I don't want to say poor, but it's quite run down. Yeah, so like someone can take pride in a place, they'll look after it, they'll be happy, and then it'll sort of, I don't know, just hopefully break the circle.
Yeah.
They're quite thankful. They had a massive opening ceremony there. Once we sort of handed the place over, they blessed the whole place. It was like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Well, I just shared that a little bit before you came as well. And you are getting the return for it, because you can justify for it. Like your total spend was under 900 and now you're getting 1900 per week. Yeah. So definitely the return is there. So, sometimes you can say it's overcapitalized, but based on those returns, like you can justify for it. And the main thing is that you built such a strong reputation as well. Like, it just makes your future business so much easier to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was extremely hard to set up the social housing stuff up there, because it is non-existent up in Kaitaia.
Yeah.
So it was a big learning process for them also.
There might be another day, Joe. Like, we need another day of social housing training. There's so much to learn from this deal. Like, you got so much experience with this. And I think I'm just super glad that you've come to the finish line. The numbers all stack up so nicely. You did really, really well. And just an incredible journey that I just witnessed in the last 3 years, sort of from you buying your first home, like your door up, and then you did another deal in between, and then you ended up with this one, and then now like you're sitting on a ton of equity, ready to do more. Really well done, man. And thanks for taking the time to sharing. But I just wanted to say, like, your engineering benchtop is like significantly better than what I would spend. This is probably what I'll buy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I thought I'm going to open up the floor to questions, because some of these guys jump on. Obviously, they want to ask you questions. So I'm going to just stop the recording there and let you guys just have a quick chat.